Welcome to the Clueless to Conscious podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Dills, joined by my amazing co-host, Shaadi Rose. Together, we're here to explore all things holistic and spiritual.
So grab your favorite tea and get cozy and join us on this journey from clueless to conscious.
Let's get started! All right. Welcome back to another episode. What episode are we on today?
I think number 9.
Oh my God. The end of a numerical cycle.
Yeah, we are.
We haven't filmed an episode in like
In
a long time.
In
a long time. It's the end of March, right?
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, tomorrow's the last day of March, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So today's March 30th. So what are we going to do anything for April Fools?
I thought about that because I saw that it
Really?
was April Fool's on my calendar, and I used to. It honestly wasn't specifically for April Fools, but I used to, like, when I was in high school, always used to try and trick my mom, like, Mom, I have something to tell you. Like, I'm pregnant.
Whoa, you did like the really that's like a big
She
jump.
literally never fell for it, probably because I never had a boyfriend or any guys in my life.
She's like, Shaadi, you wish. That is so funny.
Yeah.
I always forget. Honestly, I always forget April 1st, but I need to set like a reminder on my phone because I feel like I getting older, I do feel like I'm a prankster.
Yeah.
Like I love to prank people. It's so funny. So real quick, I wanted to shout out Maria at The Walking Meditation for promoting our podcast and honestly
Maria.
giving a great description
The
of
best
our podcast, saying that we talk about everything and absolutely nothing at the same time.
We love you, Maria.
We love you, Maria. Genuinely, she was like our hype up woman, telling
Our
everyone.
cheerleader.
Yeah, our cheerleader.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, love you, Maria. She's definitely gonna be listening to it. She's the first view every time.
Yes.
But this episode, we were gonna talk about a few things. We're keeping it light, just
We're keeping it open.
yeah, we're keeping it open to talk about everything and nothing.
Yeah, exactly. We need to make room.
We need to make room because we have a lot of things that pop up in our brains. But first, I went to the Joe Dispenza Progressive Retreat
Yes.
2 weeks ago now, I think.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yes, 2 weeks ago. It was in LA. It was the first time that Dr. Joe Dispenza's team had a retreat, I guess a progressive retreat, which are the shortened versions, kind of like a beginner introduction retreat to his work. The first time in, I want to say 4 years that they've done it in the US. So every other time has been like, I think the last one was in Basil.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
I don't know
Actually,
either.
basil. But because
Basil, love.
someone randomly was like, "Did you just get back from basil? I'm like, what are you talking about? I just had some basil with lunch. I didn't
some
even
basil?
know that there was like, it wasn't even on my radar that a progressive had happened there. So I was like,
Right.
no.
Yeah. So that's somewhere in Europe potentially. Oh my God. We're showing our American like
Yeah. I think it's Switzerland.
ignorance. Okay. Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
Shaadi knows. Yeah. I think it's in Switzerland. So he's done. So if you don't know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is, he is a doctor that focuses on neuroscience, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and he has these weekend long, different long retreats where he talks about the science of healing and energy work. And throughout the retreat, you do meditations that he guides you through to basically elevate your energy, your state of mind, and also I would say like transmute limiting beliefs about yourself and your potentials, right?
Definitely.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. If you know who Tony Robbins is, apparently a lot of people that have went to the progressive retreat have gone to Tony Robbins.
Oh.
I think Tony Robbins is more about like career and wealth and abundance, and but I think that also a lot of people know more about Tony Robbins. Dr. Joe, on the other hand, I think he is the bridge between like science and spirituality, I think
Yeah,
I would
yeah, I
say.
think so too. Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do. Like even some people that I've met before have transitioned from like Tony to Dr.
Oh, really?
Joe. Yeah, and then I guess there's like a little track there.
Yeah, apparently I didn't realize that until going to the progressive, because a lot of people so it was at the Shrine Auditorium, which is at USC
Oh,
in
uh-huh.
downtown LA. The attendance rate, I guess, was 96% new attendees. So people who have never gone to another Joe Dispenza retreat before. And that was really shocking to me because every other retreat that I've been to for Joe has been like 60-40, sometimes 50-50,
I don't
new and returning
yeah,
students.
I honestly haven't heard. Maybe I was blanking out during those portions, but like I haven't heard him say statistics like that. But
Yeah.
when you told me that it was 96% new people, I was like,
Shocked.
whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's usually at the beginning where
Oh, he's saying from like different countries and saying all of
yes,
that stuff. Yeah.
exactly. Kelly will come out, his wing woman. She'll come out and say where everyone's from. And so majority of people were from the US.
Yeah, that makes
That makes
sense.
sense because there's a lot of people just in the LA area. And then yeah, just like little sprinkles here and there from Mexico, Canada. But I think that retreat attracted like almost 6,000 people. I think it
Wow.
was like 5,800 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think like it was probably 5,000 was US or something, or maybe like 4,000. I'm not sure, but a good amount of people. So, anyways, the basically like the retreat had a lot of people who were just discovering Joe and just wanted to understand more about like his work. And it's
Yeah.
also really nice for people who don't have a lot of time. It's on the weekend, you know. You show up like Friday night and then you leave Sunday night. So it was really
Yeah.
convenient. I think that also contributed to like my conversations with people. I felt like I was the freaking
An
veteran over
expert?
here.
You
I
were,
literally
you
felt like I was
were.
like an expert, and I was just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but for some reason people are asking me. I actually sat at this one table on Sunday at during the lunchtime, and everyone at the table was like, "Oh, like so." They were already in conversation. I showed up, you know, like a couple minutes in, and they asked me like, "Oh, so you know, how do you hear about Joe? Like, oh, is this your first retreat?" And I was like, "Oh no, this is my fourth." And they were like, "Oh my god, what?" I felt like a celebrity. And they're like, "So, what do you find? Like, why do you find that you keep coming back to these retreats?" And it's funny because at my first retreat, when someone told me that they had gone to like 11 retreats, I was like, "Okay, like, you haven't learned it the first time." Like you had to come back, you kept forgetting or what? Um, but now I realize coming back from my fourth retreat, you do need refreshers to like just constantly redirect your mind back to,
Mhm.
you know, where you want it to be. Sometimes like, you know, we all
Yeah.
have busy lives, you get kind of like bogged down by work, relationships and everything. And it is fun to like go back into this energy where everyone around you is excited about infinite potentials and wanting to like elevate the space, elevate their lives, and build community. So that in
Yeah.
itself is like a reason to come back, but it is like a
Yeah.
nice reminder.
Yeah, and it's honestly, first of all, cool that it was so many new people because it's like so many new people are learning about this and
That's
getting
true.
into this work and like trying meditation or just like discovering new ideas, which is cool. And yeah, it's not that you like forget what you learned at the
Right.
previous events, but you just sometimes fall back into your previous patterns or your habits, ways of thinking, and it's easy to do that because, like, we are living in this, like, between 2 worlds kind of, and most of the
Mhm.
people, like, that you're interacting with on a daily basis, I mean, we do have some control over that, but, like, depending, like, on if you're working or if you have, like, kids and doing stuff with them and their school and everything else, like, a lot of the people that you're interacting with aren't necessarily doing this kind of work, so it's
Mhm.
easy to just, like, get lost in the other stuff.
Yeah, no, you said that perfectly. That's how I feel about it, and I
Yeah.
actually love that perspective of so many new people coming into the work too. Because at first I was kind of like, "Oh god, am I gonna be the teacher? Like, I need to be taught," you know? But I actually love
Yeah.
that perspective because it's true. I felt like I also came into it being like, "Oh, no, like, you guys should do the week long." I
Yeah.
was literally, like, advocating for, people to come back and do the week long, which now I feel more excited. I wanna do, at the one that's at Marco Island because I
Yeah.
heard good things about that. And I met so many new friends. I met
Yeah.
so many new friends. Like, I felt so grateful that he did a progressive in LA because it's so close to us, right? And so
Mhm.
now we have so many people that we invited to the Santa Monica walking meditations that we have every Saturday in Santa Monica, Tower 26, to come and also join a community of like-minded people who are interested in growth
Yeah.
and, infinite potentials.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, so it was really cool. It was a great time. I'm really glad that I went. Two things that he said specifically that I was like, I've heard him say this a million times before, but it hasn't fully penetrated my brain.
Yeah.
Like I've heard him say this before, but sometimes I do feel like it's almost like when you pick up a book at the exact right time that you needed it for your life. Going to this progressive, I was now like listening to a lot of the same things that he says, but I was hearing it in a different
In a new
way, if that
way.
makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah,
You're a
so
different person than the first 4 times you've heard that or,
right, that's
so,
so
like,
true.
now you're the person who's ready to integrate that new piece of information.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And it's almost like the other retreats I had been to was essentially a seed was being planted. And then now it's
Yeah.
kind of like sprouting a little bit because I'm like, oh, it was just like this burst of like, I get it.
Life,
I get what you're
yeah.
saying. The
Yes.
first night, which was the introduction kind of on Friday, he goes, raise your hand if you have been meditating. Have
Just
you
in general, every
yeah,
day or
I
what?
can't even remember actually what he said. That's why I started laughing because I was like, "Wait, did I just make that up?" No, but he said, like, "Raise your hand if you've been meditating with the intention to step into a new body or something." So we're like, I'm raising my hand. I'm going, "Woo! Yeah, yeah!" Everyone's shouting like, "Yeah!" And then he goes, "Raise your hand if you wake up every morning and you practice who you're gonna be that day." And I'm like, "Woo! Yeah, yeah." And then I go, "Wait, why did I just raise my hand?" I literally don't do that. And for the next couple of hours, he was talking about waking up every morning and rehearsing who you're going to be for that day, all of the feelings that you're going to feel, and how you're going to think, feel, act in those emotions. And I never heard it that way, you
Yeah.
know? So the next morning, because you weren't there for the first day that long, the next morning on Saturday before I came to the auditorium, I woke up and I just kind of lied in bed for another 10, 15 minutes and did that. I just rehearsed. Okay, how am I going to feel? How am I going to think? How am I going to um, walk as this version of myself that I want to be?
Yeah.
The first retreat that I went to, he talked about how you wake up in the morning and you check your phone, you check your email, you remind yourself of all of the past stressors, grievances, all of the future tasks that you need to complete, and just basically a reminder of who you think you are as a
Yeah.
person, you know? I need to take the kids to school and I'm not gonna have enough time to do this. And, I still need to, I need to respond to my boss. My boss sucks. I don't even want to respond to this email. Like, just you wake up in the morning and you just remind yourself of who your personality based off of your personal
Yeah.
reality, right? I really resonated when he said that in the first retreat, but it wasn't until this retreat where he was like, don't, where I heard in my brain now, don't do that.
Yeah.
It was like this is how you do it differently, right? Like it just
Yeah.
took
It is
that
different.
extra step to
Yeah.
be for or that specific word or the verbiage that he used, or like you said, me being this new person, for me to actually now take the next step.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I love that. What I was being reminded of when you were saying that is
Mhm.
because I just finished reading one of his books, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I just finished reading that book, and in it, he's talking about unmemorizing before you start, implanting the new seeds and making the
Mm.
new program. And so, and I've heard, some of his meditations do prompt you, okay, think about the things that you don't want to be, or
Mm.
think about the feelings that you don't want to be feeling. And always in those meditations, I was like, but I don't want to think about those. Why
Yeah,
are we bringing
yeah.
this up right now? Like, I'm the new person. I don't even like have that. Um, and then, but in this book, he's talking about like, he asks you like, okay, think about like one emotion that you want to unmemorize, like, or one state of mind, and like say that your emotion is anger or something.
Mhm.
And then he says, what are the types of thoughts that you think about like when you're feeling angry? And then what are the types of actions you take? And then so like you start to see, oh, like when I'm feeling angry, I'm usually like more judgmental, I'm rude to people, I'm like in a rush. I think there's no time, and I start acting like blindly, like maybe I'll be rude to someone at the store, or like I'll honk at someone on the drive or whatever. And so like he was just explaining all of this, and he's like, now after going through these exercises, you see all the things that are associated with that emotional state, and you can, now that I know, oh, when I'm get angry or whatever your emotion is, then I start to think like this. So when you start to think like that, you can, it sets off an alarm, like you start to recognize it. So then it
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity to stop yourself from going down
Mm.
that hole. And I was just like, now I realize the importance of thinking about the, even if we don't want those emotional states, like I realize the importance of thinking about it and thinking about like the associated actions and thoughts, because like we can catch ourselves and stop doing that
Mm.
instead of just like, oh, I'm happy, like I'm, trying to do the new emotion, like I'm happy all the time, but then like something happens and I just fall down this anger trail or whatever. Um, but it was just like, oh, okay, now I can see that that has value, thinking about those things,
Right.
and then we can practice the new way that we want to be. But like yeah, it was just like a similar feeling to what you had, where I was just like, I never, before it didn't click for me. And then I
Mhm.
was like, ah, okay, I got it.
Mm. Do you feel like it's because what I'm hearing based off of like my lens of reality or what I've learned is like awareness is the first step to change, right? So it's
Yeah,
like when you
yeah,
catch
exactly.
yourself in those habitual like thoughts or feelings or actions, you can now like associate them with something instead of like just operating off of a program. You're like, oh wait, I've already associated this with like my unconscious
Yes.
anger, right? Or like I've
Yeah.
already associated this. So then you have more of that awareness to kind of stop it.
Yeah,
And yeah.
exactly. And he also talks about like the feelings in your body. So, like,
Mm,
oh, when I'm feeling sad, I might feel like a heaviness in my heart or something. And then I can also
mm,
recognize the physical feeling and say, so what's happening right now? Like ask more
mm.
questions. But yeah, that's definitely exactly what it is, because awareness, it's like, it's so important. People say that all the time, like awareness is the first step to change. But sometimes it still just feels like just words,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
but once you actually start to like be aware and then use that awareness to like um examine what's
Mhm.
happening in your life, like, okay, I know that this usually goes with that. But then when you're in your life and you can actually recognize that in the moment of it, then I think that does give you some power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. And you mentioned about, like, the physical sensations. And it's really funny that you said that because this last week, that has been really relevant. I get pain in my traps and my
Yeah.
trap muscles. So, like, up here, I used to say it was my shoulders. It's not my shoulders. My shoulders are right here. So the trap muscles going into like my neck and my upper back, right?
Mhm.
And when I get stressed, my traps will like I feel this physical sensation like it's burning.
Yeah.
It's literally burning and I feel my shoulders literally tense up. It's basically like this motion for me to protect like my heart,
Yeah.
my neck, myself in those energetic centers. And every time I start to feel that flare, I'm like, okay, I'm going unconscious. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like a reminder or like a cue.
Mhm.
I'm going unconscious. I'm freaking the F out about this one thing. And how can I come back? How can I relax my nervous system and come back to center? What I also like associate with physical pain too is this like resistance to your authentic self, because our authentic self is rooted in love and wholeness and coherence, right? And so when you're feeling pain in your body, it's usually like a signal that something's off,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Physical pain and sensations in your body are usually like attributed to some type of emotional trauma. I can't think of a better word for trauma. Some type of emotional situation. So when you have pain in your knees, then it could be that you're constantly like bending the knee to someone in your life and
Ooh.
you're not
Standing up for yourself
standing
or
up for
something.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. There's all these like idioms that are actually synchronistic to what it means to your body. We think that someone
Yeah.
just made this up, but it actually it could relate to some type of like emotional pain. If you have pain in your shoulders, it could be that like, you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah.
If you have pain and you have constantly are getting headaches, it could be that you're in your head too much, you're overthinking, you're putting so much energy into that
Yeah.
in your brain. If you get like heart palpitations, it could be that maybe you had a heartache or, heartbreak or something. I'm trying to think of other ones. Maybe pain in your back, maybe you feel like you've been betrayed, you've been stabbed in the back. Like, I don't know,
Oh.
get creative with it.
Yeah.
But basically, actually going back to the retreat, I was thinking about this. He didn't talk about this. I was just thinking about it. And I thought, okay, traps. I get a lot of pain in my traps. What could that mean?
You're
I thought
feeling
trapped.
trapped?
Literally, could it be that simple? Could it be that simple? And that really resonated with me. I do a lot of the times I feel trapped like in situations, in even like my emotions and my feelings. Like I'm trapped,
Yeah.
I'm stuck. The past year during my meditations, yeah, like I will move my shoulders to help release that trapped
Yeah.
energy, just involuntary.
So what was the second thing that stood out to you that Dr. Joe talked about?
So the second thing that he had talked about in other retreats before that Didn't take me it took me until this retreat for it to crystallize in my brain cells. This pure sentence, the addiction to suffering, is what really resonated with me. You have different people in your lives that affirm that addiction. So, your coworkers will affirm your addiction to suffering. Oh my God, I hate my job. I hate, the traffic was terrible this morning just getting to work. Why can I just, why did I have to come into work today? Like why,
Yeah.
all of these complaints about your life. And then even with friends, having that addiction to suffering of like, oh, well, this person did this and they're such a jerk. Like, can you believe that they did that? Just
Mhm.
all of these complaints about why our life sucks,
Yeah, like,
And
so many people find common ground over, like,
yes,
complaining or
or
gossiping
a
or
common enemy.
yeah, common enemy. Is that a tongue twister? Um, just, like, speaking about, like, kind of negative things.
Yeah. You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe. He talks about that too, where people who are positive and they're optimistic are less likely to suffer from disease and more likely to live up to 11 years longer than people who are constantly negative, constantly pessimistic, who are more likely to have high cholesterol, heart
Yeah.
issues, all this stuff. That really resonated with me too, because there's that validity that thinking positively, being optimistic, it's not just to be annoying to other people. It's to literally physically have a healthier body, mind, soul, and attract more abundance and positive situations in your life.
Yeah.
So that part really resonated with me, that addiction to suffering. And literally when I came home, I was just seeing all of the ways that I'm addicted to suffering, like truly, and was like, fuck. And so, yeah, and even in small ways that, of course, everyone gets frustrated, you get angry. Those are also natural emotions, but like to sit in them and to make them bigger than they need to be. He also said that science has found that when someone relays a story, that 50% of the story is made up. That actually That sounds so real to me,
Yeah.
because what he was saying was that 50% of the story is made up to basically validate in our own brains to ourselves why we had that response or reaction? So it's like
Yeah.
I'm telling you the story of something that happened like at the grocery store, and I'm telling you that the the checkout person said it like this, and she didn't really say it like that. She kind of said it pretty normal, and like she didn't
Yeah.
really say that one word. I just added that in for like effect.
Yeah.
So that you could be like, yes, you're so valid in that response. Like, that was insane. You are the victim in this situation?
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so real, because my mom likes to call it adding salsa to the tacos. And I think I sent you the voice memo, or I can't remember. I sent someone a voice memo where I was like, literally had to re-record it because I was like, that was not true. I was like, I just added a word in there that was not true, that actually really
Skewed
like
this.
skewed the story.
Yeah.
So I should probably not do that.
Yeah, it's so true. I noticed that because, like, I know some people who I actually haven't noticed it in a while, but, like, for a while, I would notice, like, I would say something and they would literally repeat it right after me because, like, someone else didn't hear it or something
Mhm.
like that, and literally in the second after, it was completely different. I was like, "Okay."
Right.
Things change quick. Like, and I
Yeah.
notice, like, sometimes I do notice how, like, I change a word or something, and it does change the effect. But, like, I also just notice it with some stories that, like, are from, like, my childhood, and I've
Mm.
told this story so many times that, like, my memory of the story at this point is me telling the story. It's not the
Mm,
actual event happening. Like,
yeah.
which is just like, that's not the same. That's not the same.
Right. Yeah, I remember hearing that one time that it was like when you recall a story, you're basically just recalling the last time that you told it, you know?
Yeah.
So you could have added something to add a little sauce on
Yeah.
the taco the last time. But then also to your point, when you're telling a story to someone else and then they add something to it, that continues the addiction to the
Yeah,
dramatization, you
because you
know?
hear
Like,
their version this time, and then
yeah.
you're like, "Oh, wait, that kind of fits in with the story I'm trying to tell." Like,
Right,
maybe not with
right.
things
For
how they really
sure.
were, but that fits with what I'm trying to convey, so maybe I'll
Yeah.
add that word in too.
Or like they'll add in like just a perspective and like she probably was, so miserable because you had just gotten a fresh haircut and you looked great and she probably like I've heard that before. It's
Yeah.
just like all of these
Yeah, just, like,
ad
completely out
libs.
of thin air, like, who knows? But now we're just, like, making up stories for every person that was there, like, what they were thinking, what they were feeling, like
I'll add in a little bonus thing that I learned too during the retreat was your beliefs shape your reality, which has been a really big theme. That wasn't anything new, but there was some specific situations that happened that I thought were interesting to talk about. When he kind of had this PowerPoint about beliefs, he brought up beliefs like I need to work really hard to make money. That's a
I
belief.
can't lose weight without
I
starving myself
There
or
you go.
something.
Thank you. I love that one. Yes, I can't lose weight without starving myself. Okay, belief. So all of these things that are basically definitions, which we've talked about before, everything that is a definition of your life, yourself, your circumstances is a belief. And we all hold these like deeply ingrained beliefs in ourselves, which creates our reality. So if you have the belief that, yeah, you can't get skinny doing anything else, but, or you can't lose weight because that's like impossible for you, even
Yeah.
if you eat healthy, then that's going to be the
Mhm.
reality for you. Because your reality is based off of your beliefs. Your reality constantly wants to affirm what you believe to be true.
Yeah.
The second day, I call Logan and I'm like, "Hey, where are you at? Let's meet up before we start for the day." And he's like, "I'm just in the lobbies with this girl that I'm talking to." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I walk up to them and I immediately like say hello to her and I say hi to Logan. We're just like talking and, shooting the shit. And she gives me a really nice compliment and says that my energy was just so nice and warm and welcoming. And she goes, when you first walked up and Logan said that his friend was coming over and I saw it was a woman, I was about to walk away because I didn't want to deal with any catty women. And I was like, oh, did I tell you this?
No.
Oh. She said that the day before, the first day on Friday of the retreat, that she was getting into her seat. A lot of people came alone, so she was getting into her seat. And there was this woman who was trying to save like a seat for her friend. And so this random woman she didn't know, basically kind of like pushed her and said
W
like move. Like out of the way so that her friend could come to get the seat or something like that.
But, like,
So
actually physically,
physically like moved her
that's
out of the way,
a
pushed
little
her.
bit.
I'm not really sure. I don't want to add any sauce to the
Yeah,
taco, so I'm
yeah.
just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
The girl who I'm talking to, she's saying like that it really affected her, negatively,
Yeah.
because she was just like, I'm really sensitive to energy and especially with women that I feel I'm, encountering a lot of like catty women. I just feel like women are so catty. And so to experience that at this type of retreat was really shocking for me because I didn't expect that. And it just made me feel really bad,
Yeah.
And so she asked me, what do you do when you encounter catty women? And I thought that that was a really interesting question. And I actually really
Yeah.
admired her for being like, I want to know how I can change that,
Yeah.
response maybe, or whatever, because yeah, like you do have an expectation that people in that are going to this retreat are there to change.
Yeah.
And she asked me that, and I was like, I don't know. I need to think about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known what to
Yeah.
say. Honestly, I probably would have cried. Not if someone asked me that, but if the lady pushed me out of the way and said move.
If your belief is that all women are catty, you're going to encounter catty women. The first Dr. Joe retreat that I went to, I told you, I encountered like 4 men who wanted to like hold my hand or like try to kiss me. Like there was a lot of romantic energy, I guess, that I was
Yeah.
putting out that I was not trying to put out. I was there honestly for myself and to make friends,
Yeah.
and build like a community and stuff. But that actually has been a journey for a long time where I've really had to like look at the energy that I'm putting out and my beliefs more so, like my
Yeah.
beliefs and how I believe my relationship with like men and women, right? So this retreat was really affirming to my changing beliefs because I was building a lot of female relationships and connections. That felt really healing and nourishing in my soul because I love being around like female energy and having like good girlfriends.
Yeah.
I reached out to my little sister because she has always had really good, close girlfriends.
Mhm.
I knew that she had a belief that women are not catty.
Yeah.
And I was still pondering on that question that the
Yeah.
girl that I met posed to me. So I asked my little sister, what is the belief that you hold that leads you to think that women are not catty because you're not attracting catty women? Obviously she has like a group of really great girlfriends.
Mhm.
And she goes, first she's like, I really don't know, because that's always just how I grew up believing that, yeah, people are weird sometimes.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of weird people that do weird things. There's men who are jerks and there's women who are catty. There's men who are catty. There's women who are jerks. And you could choose to not interact with that reality, right? You just want to be friends
Yeah.
with them,
Yeah.
you just want to talk to them, whatever. And if you have a certain belief, that's going to really affect how you actually respond in those situations, right?
Yeah.
Because if you believe that women are great and most women are like so lovely and kind and nurturing or whatever, and then you encounter one woman that calls you a bad name, you're just like, whoa, like
That was weird.
that was weird. Like she was obviously having not a good day, but like, okay.
It's not gonna like rewrite your entire beliefs on
Yes.
women.
Yes. And so talking with my sister, she was like, if I'm thinking about it in childhood, she's like, I grew up with 2 older sisters that taught me how women are. They're want to include you. They're super welcoming. You guys were always just like wanted everyone to get along, be included, were kind, and weren't catty,
Yeah.
Catty. I've never used that word so many times in my life
No.
until literally these past 2 weeks after I
Yeah.
had that thought, or she brought up that thought. First of all, really touching to me 'cause I
Yeah.
was just like, thank you. But then on the other side of it, I think that, to be honest, I grew up a little differently than she did. I felt like I had struggles kind of in my female relationships in high school because I had these beliefs that like, oh, if you're something silly that honestly I think was affected by movies, like, oh, if you're beautiful, you're gonna be rude, like,
Oh, yeah.
which is not rational,
Yeah.
and then I carried into my adult life, like, oh, I have to constantly disarm women when I'm talking to them because I don't want them to think that I'm threatening their
Yeah.
ego, or that if they're talking to a guy, I need to give more attention to the girl because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to come on to their man. Like
Yeah.
all of these subconscious beliefs that are within seconds are just wiring into my brain, and I'm basing my reality off of them.
Yeah. I honestly think that's all movies. Like, if we didn't watch movies growing up, we wouldn't have any, like, thought about those things.
A lot of it was like Mean Girls, like,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. My little sister, she watched Mean Girls. I remember we were in the car and we had those screens that you could watch movies in the back of the
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
and my sister got to watch Mean Girls when she was like 10 or something, and I was so mad because I told my mom, I was like, I had to wait till I was 13 because
Oh my
it's
god,
PG-13.
yeah, yeah.
And she gets to watch it at 10. Like, that's so not fair. Anyways, didn't affect her, so so anyways, long story short, so I can just wrap up the thought, is that my sister doesn't believe that women are catty, and she's attracted really healthy, beautiful relationships with women. So to me, that is evidence right there, point blank, that you can create that reality based on your beliefs and choose to think that way. Also, when people are weird or catty, you can also just choose to not interact with that and just
Mhm.
acknowledge that that's not the reality that
Yeah.
you prefer
Yeah,
and
and
give attention
also
to.
that that's not even them. That's just, like,
Mm.
their specific circumstance that day or, like, something that happened or anything.
I was waiting in line, also at the retreat. Still about the retreat. So I was waiting in line to go to the bathroom, and there was these two girls behind me who were like our age. They were talking to this guy, catching up with him, um, and she was talking very loud, and she was talking how I talk with a Valley Girl accent. And for some reason, my brain thought, God, you're so annoying. And then I thought, she literally, and then I thought, and I was like talking to myself in my head, Lauren, she sounds exactly like you. She's literally getting excited. That's why she's talking louder. And she has a Valley Girl accent, which is literally what you sound like, right? So I'm like listening to the conversation. I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to rewire my brain and dismantle this decades long belief that, like, this person is a threat to my ego.
Yeah.
Why? It's so irrational. I don't even know this person. Like, this is crazy. And so she's done talking with the guy, and he walks away, and I turn around and I say, "Hey, I overheard your conversation. Do you guys live in LA?" Nicest person.
Oh.
Nicest
Yeah.
person. Nicest person. I'm actually like really giving myself away right now. I don't like that I had that thought, but like that was
That's
real.
true,
Like that
yeah.
was real for me. And I recognized that wasn't a belief that I wanted to hold, In that moment, I was just like, that was all something that I made up in my head, projecting these like insecurities and these beliefs onto her, who I
Yeah.
think like that she is, or that she's, being performative by being so excited when I'm literally the exact same way, is just indication that how I feel about myself is how I feel about other people, and
Yeah.
everything is a mirror. And just having like that simple conversation with her, I was able to like really like rewire and dismantle that belief, to be like, that was irrational
Yeah.
and I can choose to think something different.
That's amazing that you had that opportunity and that realization.
The universe presented me that opportunity too,
Exactly.
to alchemize that.
Mhm.
There was, yeah, a lot of other synchronicities that happened too during that retreat. But I think the main thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was just like, yeah, dismantling that belief of other people. You can think that about an entire race, a gender, age group, community, can be as simple as like challenging your beliefs. So
Mhm. And getting past that initial judgment and, like, interacting with that situation or that person, even though,
Yeah, like challenging yourself and putting yourself potentially in what you think might be an uncomfortable situation to
Yeah.
to challenge that judgment.
Yeah.
So
So
that's what I learned.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Which the women part of it wasn't even a part of the retreat. That was like my own little
That was
sub.
a bonus.
Yeah, that was just a little.
That was a side research project you had going.
If you guys are considering going to a retreat, highly recommend. I think going to the week-longs are even better. Even better.
And you can do that as a beginner also. You don't like
Yes.
have to start with the progressive.
You don't even have to
jump
read
right
his
in.
books.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. Well,
You don't have to
you
do something.
You have to do some stuff, but he gives you the stuff to do. So don't be like intimidated. I was intimidated before going to my first retreat because I was like, oh my God, I've barely been meditating, and
For sure.
it's fine. It's good.
That almost makes it better because then like you're really just pushing past.
You're just really jumping in.
Yeah, you're literally just jumping into the deep end.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's when the most profound experiences happen. So you can do that too.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We're going to sign off for now.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.